go. Okay, today was our last day of half pads. We'll go into full pads tomorrow. Some of the practice is starting to wear down some of the guys, but overall I think we're in really good health. Some of the things that I'd like to note today, Jelani Ellison did some really good things at the cornerback position. There's things he's got to learn, but he certainly shows some athleticism. Javon Bigelow's doing some good things at the running back position. And I thought Braden Smith is continuing to come along as a safety, which is encouraging. Over the defensive front, just continued really outstanding play by Granderson and Johanna Gaffon. We're working on some elements of the kicking game. Kickoff today, Cooper was placing the ball well and finding some guys on that kickoff team. So, day 4 is in the books. I think we made some good progress.
You mentioned you like the progress of your offensive line. What progress would you like to see? I mean, as you get ready for that first game, where do you want it to be? Where you'd be satisfied?
Well, it needs to be at a high note, and I think today, I don't know, we'll look at the tape. We might have taken a step back today, actually. You're going to have that during fall camp as well. But our offensive line showed significant progress during the course of the spring. We'll need to maintain that trajectory. And I don't know if we started out where we left off in the spring, which is encouraging. I don't know if we made great strides today, but we're finding out who the best 5 players are there, and we'll continue to work with those guys. But it's going to be imperative that group really assert itself.
Last year, cornerback, you guys kind of had almost 3 starters there, and I know CJ and Noodles were kind of named the guys out of spring, but is that still something you guys would like to be able to do, is have a good rotation there of players who can
Without question, and the other guy that's figuring in the mix is Keon Blankenbaker, and we're looking for that 4th guy. I think Jelani's doing some things to maybe secure that spot. In our league with all the different variable type of offenses, to have skilled guys back there are really going to be important. The guys that have played corner before, Tyler Hall's played corner before, and also Braden Smith. So we've got some depth, not as much as what we'd like.
You mentioned, Bigelow at running back. I mean, you played true freshman as running backs. I mean, you're not in full pad yet. Maybe this is a better question for a couple weeks, but is Bigelow maybe a guy that the way he's built or what you've seen so far that if he continues to have a good camp that could maybe figure into that mix, or is that a little premature at this point?
I wouldn't say it's premature. I mean, we're going to look at all those young freshman running backs, but, his weight, I think he's about 215 pounds. He's showing good movement, good change of direction. So there's a lot of guys in the mix right now. Trey and Kellen are not in full contact, and so we're not having a great evaluation on those guys. But once we get through a scrimmage, I think we'll have a better understanding of those younger players.
With so many interior linemen coming back from injury this year, how do you kind of manage having 4 guys who have started there, and I guess does that help maybe keep guys fresh on the interior?
Well, it's imperative. You getting down the line of scrimmage, you're going to have a lot of bumps and bruises and injuries, and the teams that are deeper at that spot, and you play a lot of guys, typically find themselves at the top of the conference standings, and it'll be important for us to continue to develop depth there.
In your mind, how's Logan Harris kind of approached this? I mean, last year you're getting him ready to be your starting center and started every game, and now he's at guard and competing, certainly. Not saying he's buried on the depth chart, but that's, it's kind of a marked contrast from one year to the next. How's he kind of handled that, at least in your mind?
He's handled it well, and a lot of that comes down to his character. He's overcome a lot of adversity. His family's had a lot of adversity, and he's just a great example of a super Wyoming player. It's really important for him to play for the Cowboys, and he's going to do whatever he can to help the team. We feel like we've made strides in the offensive line. It's not like he's taken steps back. I think we're just getting better.
So Jared Scott was out today. What injury is he dealing with?
Concussion protocol.
Okay.
And then you said Vez is sick?
Yeah, he has strep throat.
Strep.
Yep.
Any idea how long that'll keep him out, or is it just sort of a Chavez?
He thought he'd be back tomorrow. I think if they get him on a pretty strong antibiotics, we'll see him. I know he's into sports medicine care.
Go into full pads tomorrow. I know you're not going to just beat each other up all day, but how big is that first one in pads to really start getting that evaluation process, or continue that evaluation process?
Well, that'll be another step. I mean, there'll be some things that we'll do that'll be pretty aggressive. I think it's important for us to stay on our plan, but we need to be a physical football team, and when you're in full pads, you need to have some pretty spirited practices.
I think in Vegas you mentioned you'd be a little bit more physical this camp than maybe in the past. Is that partially just having fewer practices, or I guess what's sort of the motivation for that?
We need to run the ball better. And to run the ball, that's, sometimes that's not a pleasant thing to go through when you're practicing. And to do that, we're going to need to stress our offensive line, our running backs, and our defensive front. And that's, I know no other way. You can have walkthroughs all you want to, but pad level and finishing off blocks is going to be something really important for us.